Kagali and Tear had been tracking Jahil without him noticing. Although Jahil possessed immense power, he was careless about his surroundings. Whether it was negligence due to his strength or sheer arrogance, a true master would have noticed Kagali and Tear's pursuit, but Jahil showed no signs of awareness. Just as I thought. He hasn't been awake for long, and he hasn't had the time to hone his powers. It's exactly as I expected. Right. It seems like we might have a chance to fight him, but even so, we still can't win on our own. While tracking him, Kagali and Tear had been observing Jahil, trying to find his weaknesses. As a result, they concluded that he wasn't an opponent they absolutely couldn't defeat. However, they fully understood that they couldn't do it alone. They needed some kind of plan. But before they could figure it out, they arrived at the battlefield of Damergania. Jahil's target was the Demon Lord Luminous. The girl, whom Kagali had thought was a servant of the Demon Lord Roy Valentine, turned out to be an ancient being who had lived longer than Kagali herself. Kagali learned this fact after seeing images projected across the world. Luminous's combat abilities were superior to Kagali's, but even so, Kagali estimated that she still fell short of Jahil's power. Even with Kagali and Tear's help, there was no chance of victory. Yet, Jahil wasn't the only enemy. If they let Luminous die here, humanity itself would be defeated by the cryptid race. How ridiculous, Kagali mocked herself. She had wanted to avenge her comrades, but that was becoming increasingly difficult. If she had continued to wait for the right moment to kill Jahil, she might have achieved that goal. But now, she was choosing the survival of humanity over that possibility. She was surprised to realize that she still clung to life. As if seeing through Kagali's thoughts, Luminous spoke to her. You all have been dealt a poor hand, haven't you? Oh? Are you trying to comfort me? Or have you already given up? Don't be absurd. Even if you die, I will bring you back to life. So fight with all you've got and buy us some time. Her words carried the meaning. Don't give up. Of course, Kagali also nodded firmly. Even if they couldn't destroy Jahil now, reinforcements were sure to come. With Benimaru, their chances of victory would greatly increase. Many other powerful individuals had also gathered under the command of the Demon Lord Remure. From what she could sense, they hadn't arrived yet, but if they bought some time, they would surely come. If they waited for that moment and counterattacked, they believed they could destroy Jahil. Because there was hope, they could keep fighting. Kagali felt the same way. Tear, who believed in Kagali, also felt the same, and Luminous had regained a sense of composure, seeing hope ahead. But, however, in this world, things don't always go as planned. The next moment a searing beam of light sliced Tear, who had shielded Kagali, clean in two. What? Kagali was stunned, but she soon realized that her own chest had been burned through, and her consciousness began to fade. Not on my watch. Resurrection. A mysterious radiance enveloped Tear and Kagali, and the two were revived, but... Taking advantage of an opening, Jahil's powerful arm struck Luminous, sending her flying. With a series of follow-up attacks, Luminous was engulfed in flames. This was the price for underestimating Jahil. Had there been an overwhelming difference in strength, the outcome might have been different, but it wasn't enough to overturn the sheer intensity of the battle. Moreover, it could be said that Luminous lacked a sense of urgency, as she attempted to face Jahil while using mana perception to oversee the entire battlefield. She wasn't dead yet. Luminous wasn't the type to die from something like this. However, it was undoubtedly a critical mistake. Though heavily damaged, Luminous activated an automatic recovery spell and stood back up. As if to show that revealing weakness meant defeat, she smiled as if to say that this much was nothing. However, Jahil was not so foolish as to be deceived by such an act. Gahahaha. Just as I thought. You can no longer use the technique that defeated the Godfather, can you? Jahil was not completely familiar with Luminous's divine techniques. However, based on the circumstances surrounding the Godfather's defeat, he deduced that it must have been due to the powerful disintegration. In a decisive moment, Luminous would surely unleash that technique in an attempt to turn the tide. That was why Jahil had attacked her while still holding back some of his strength. If he had gone all out, he wouldn't have been able to spare any power for defense, so he deliberately left himself open. And yet, Luminous did not react. It's not that I didn't react, I couldn't. At that moment, Jahil was certain of his victory. Tear and Kagali, who had been resurrected by Luminous, keenly felt that their judgment had been too naive. Well, this is tough. Kagali-sama, what should we do? Should we run? At this moment, Jahil's attention was focused on Luminous. If it were just Tear and Kagali, they had the option to retreat. However, Kagali refused. No, Tear. If we run away here, we will remain nothing but losers. They wouldn't find happiness, and they would have to live in misery until the world itself perished. Rather than live that kind of life, she wanted to make the rest of her existence shine. Kagali resolved to die here. Laplace and even Yuuki-sama died protecting me. That's why I should survive until the end, but if I remain miserable, it would all be meaningless. I don't think those two would want that either. You're right. I think so too. Yes, they had to find happiness. Even if it was only for a short time, they had to believe that their final moments were filled with joy, otherwise, the lives of their fallen comrades would become meaningless. Kagali couldn't allow that. That's why she chose to fight instead of flee. Kagali readied the rune scepter. Activating her ultimate enchant. Book of Prophecy, Agasha at full power, she performed predictive computation to anticipate Jahil's next move. Tear did the same. She took up the Tear side, then unleashed her full power using ultimate enchant. Optimistic performer, Orpheus. Even if I burn out in this moment, I'll make sure to take you down with me. The grudge for Footman, Laplace, and Boss, you took something precious from me, and I'll never forgive you for it. Kagali and Tear synchronized their breathing and charged at Jahil. Jahil had been about to finish off Luminous, but he couldn't afford to ignore their coordinated assault. Even if their attacks weren't fatal, he wouldn't escape unscathed. And he already knew from their previous battle that letting them act freely would be troublesome. Worthless puppets getting ahead of themselves. Jahil abandoned his attack on Luminous, and turned his focus to eliminating Kagali and Tear. He unleashed a massive fireball, intending to incinerate them. But Kagali and Tear remained unfazed. Jahil's reaction speed exceeded their expectations, but no, they had already accounted for that possibility. They had resolved to strike him with a decisive blow, even at the cost of their lives. Before the fireball could engulf them, they unleashed one final desperate attack. Damn it. These wretched pests just keep getting in my way. Jahil braced himself, preparing to counter their strike. However, in that instant, a black whirlwind swept through, snatching Kagali and Tear in his grasp. The massive fireball shot into the empty sky, scattering embers and leaving the scent of scorched air behind. As Kagali and Tear landed on the ground, they looked up to see a woman in a maid outfit standing before them. Dusty skin. Gray hair braided neatly. Behind the featureless mask, eyes gleamed like amethysts. Who is that? No Face. How impudent. Jahil launched a massive fireball, but the woman who called herself No Face effortlessly dodged it. Her movements were light and graceful. However, even the aftershock of the fireball was enough to leave her burned. What are you doing, Eva? Run. Kagali shouted, but the masked woman Eva stood firm. Kagali-sama, you must retreat. As long as you survive, my life will have had meaning. What are you? I am nothing but a failure who couldn't protect Clayman-sama, but even I have my pride. Eva would not back down, pleading for Kagali to retreat. Eva was a dark elf, and had served Kagali since her days as a princess. She had lived for many long years and was once a trusted confidant of Demon Lord Kazarium. Under Kazarium's orders, she had been entrusted with the management of the ancient city Amrita located in the Gistav, operating from the shadows as a member of the moderate clown troupe. After Kazarium and Clayman perished, she lived in seclusion as an elder of the Dark Elves, as if she had already died. She reunited with Kagali when welcoming Rimuru's party, and was assigned a new mission to monitor Demon Lord Rimuru, while cooperating to avoid suspicion. However, upon learning of the current world crisis, she could no longer remain silent. This time, she had thrown everything away to rush to Kagali's aid, determined to protect them. Thus, no matter how much she revered Kagali, retreat was not an option. Eva was not a deathman, meaning she could not revive if she died. But that did not matter. If she could buy even a little more time for Kagali and the others, that alone was enough for Eva. The skills she had honed were meant for this very moment. With that thought, Eva felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment in every fiber of her being. Eva's existence value was not even close to 200,000. While this was impressive for a subordinate of an average demon lord, in the face of an overwhelmingly malevolent being like Jahil, she was nothing more than a speck of dust that could be blown away with a single breath. Even so, Eva used only her honed skills and her speed-focused body enhancements to try and buy time against Jahil. It was nothing short of a suicidal act. Stop. Please, stop. Kagali's anguished cry echoed across the battlefield. Eva's outfit began to burn at the edges. Her mask melted from the heat, revealing her true face. She had a fleeting, fragile smile. In stark contrast, Jahil wore a cruel grin. He had seen through Eva's true power, and had already come up with the perfect countermeasure. Instead of trying to strike down the swift Eva directly, he decided to incinerate the entire area. Jahil had been growing irritated and enraged, but he was not a fool. He could still make rational decisions when needed. Listening to Kagali and the others' melodramatic exchanges had been grating on his nerves. He decided to wipe out these nuisances altogether, and, as an added bonus, punish them for angering him. Well, you worthless insects who dare to stand in my way, I'll make you taste the agony of hellfire. You'll burn in the inferno, writhing in regret for defying me. Jahil sneered. Everything was going according to plan. Kagali and Tear had stepped forward to shield Eva. Fools. The weak always flock together, but sacrificing themselves to protect another weakling. I cannot comprehend the logic of these imbeciles. The scene before Jahil felt eerily familiar. Those pathetic insects, Yuuki and Laplace, had also died protecting their comrades. And now, Kagali and Tear, the very ones who had been protected before, were about to meet the same fate, throwing away their lives in vain. What an absurd, ironic spectacle. Jahil found it immensely entertaining. Once these pests were eliminated, his next target would be Luminous. She was already preparing to activate Resurrection in anticipation of Kagali and the others' imminent deaths. What an impudent and troublesome opponent. But her efforts would be in vain. For Jahil was about to unleash a massive fireball at maximum output, imbued with the power of the Origin blood. Eva was insignificant, but Kagali and Tear were strong in their own right. Their million-class status was no joke. They possessed a considerable resistance to Jahil's divine authority. But Jahil would break through that resistance and reduce them to ashes, leaving not even a single bone fragment behind. That way, even Luminous's resurrection would struggle to revive them. Even if she could, it would take an immense amount of time. Jahil processed all this in an instant. And now, his ultimate fireball was complete. The moment it was unleashed, it expanded just before its target, manifesting a scorching hell, or at least, that was how it was supposed to be. The instant the fireball swelled. With a soft pop it vanished. Jahil was bewildered. He could not comprehend what had just happened. He stood there, dumbfounded, like a complete fool. The great fireball turned into a flash of light, swallowing up and annihilating all the nuisances in the area. At least, that was how it was supposed to end, yet, all that remained in the aftermath was steam, drifting meaninglessly through the air. No way. Jahil hadn't felt this sense of disbelief in a long time. Beyond the steam, a shadow moved. Of course, Kagali and the others were unharmed. Rage ignited in Jahil's heart. He refused to believe in luck, flukes didn't happen twice. He steeled himself, determined to strike again. He could figure out why this phenomenon occurred later. Right now, he needed to prepare his next attack. But then, a voice, far too cheerful for the situation, reached Jahil's ears. Sorry to keep you waiting, everyone. He recognized that voice. It belonged to someone who should have been dead. Why the hell are you here? Boss, you're alive. Yuki-sama. Ha, I knew you were tough. Jahil's shocked cry overlapped with the voices of Tear and Kagali, who were both bewildered yet overjoyed. And it was no wonder they were surprised. The owner of that voice was none other than the man who was supposed to be dead, Yuuki Kagurazaka. He stood there confidently, holding a woman whose face was obscured, as if shielding her. Oh, and one more person was with him. You know, I'm here too. Laplace muttered, but his words were drowned out by the wave of cheers.